Now, you may remember a couple of months back, the Duke of Edinburgh was sitting in a row of people waiting for a photograph to be taken and then promptly swore, using some very strong Anglo-Saxon, at the photographer, which went round the world. Well, let's speak to a former royal butler, good friend of this programme, Grant Harrold. Grant, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
How are you this morning?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Let's just talk about the Duke of Edinburgh swearing at that photographer. He's sort of known for speaking his mind. Is it ever acceptable to swear?
It's a tricky one because people do. It doesn't matter who you are or your background. Sometimes you're in a situation where you kind of forget yourself and you do come out with swear words, but it's not really acceptable. I mean, it's something that, you know, I try to advise people to kind of either avoid or use some other kind of phrases. You know, there's many other words they could use,
yes.
From golly gosh to fiddlesticks.
I can't really imagine the Duke of Edinburgh as, oh, for fiddlesticks, take that fiddlesticks photo, which is basically paraphrasing what he said there.
No, I think it'd be a bit difficult. But as I said, it's one of those situations where I'm guessing they obviously thought they wouldn't be heard or he couldn't be heard, and unfortunately there was which has happened a few times to members of the royal family. There's a microphone and obviously they're overheard with what they're saying. But again, I'm sure if he knew that he could have been heard, he would have used other language. You know, he would have used words that were a bit more appropriate. And again, as I said, when I give my classes, I always say to people, you know, definitely avoid the swear words because, one, obviously they can be offending, and also they're not. I always think it's not appropriate for young children, and I'm a bit old-fashioned, but for ladies to hear such words.
What's interesting, of course, is that you are a former royal butler. You also, I know you do teach butlering and etiquette to people as well.
Yes.
I would imagine also being in service, you may well have faced people who were, to use the phrase that was often associated with Sir Alex Ferguson, of hair-dryering, where someone is shouting and swearing at you, and of course you have to take it, don't you?
Do you know?
But do you?
Well, hand on heart, I can honestly say in 17, 18 years, I never ever had that happen to me. I've had other butlers tell me horror stories of things that have happened to them, but amazingly, during my time with everybody that I've looked after, it never ever happened to me. And again, if it did happen, or when I train my students and we cover this, that this could, you know, you could have somebody standing there, not just the employer, even a guest or anybody could be standing there doing that. And we live in a modern time where I say to them, look, you obviously there's so much people should take, but then it obviously comes to a point where you actually wonder whether you stand there and take that, or whether you actually have to say, I don't think that's appropriate. And it depends on the situation and who it is and all the rest of it.
So that you would teach staff to turn around and say, I'm terribly sorry, sir or madam, I don't think the way you're speaking to me is appropriate.
I think it depends what it's over. You know, if it was done in a civilized manner where it was a telling off or something, that's one thing. But if they, for some reason, just say, let's just say somebody's had a drink and they suddenly decide to kind of go off, you know, for the fun of it, then that just wouldn't be appropriate. And I think, not just butlers, I think nobody should have to put up with that. But at the same time, it depends what the situation is and what it is that's actually being said to the person as to how they react.
Grant Harrold, always a pleasure talking with you. Many thanks for joining me this morning.